Hello, Orville Nation. How are you doing? We have a very, very special guest tonight. Um, you guys all know him because he's part of our community, George Peter Gatsis. And did I pronounce that right, George?
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Greetings, everyone. Greetings.
Hey, Adega, how you doing? Good to see you. Um, so,
Correct. Absolutely correct. Greetings, everyone. Greetings.
okay. So, yeah, so tonight we're going to be talking with George, who's part of our community, and I mean, wow. I mean, just look at the talent that we have in our community. It's amazing. And once George, I think if I'm not mistaken, I bumped into George on one of Gary's chats.
Yeah,
Hello, that was
it was during a chat. I super chatted Gary about the completion of the book, and I opened it up to everybody that was on the stream, and you were there.
yeah, yeah. So I
And
contacted you outside the on Twitter. Hello, Death by Saber. And wow. And so I started to George sent me a sample of what he was doing, and when I
oh,
saw it,
don't be so modest. I sent you the whole book.
okay, he sent me a good portion. But I was able to look at about half of it, and I was like, wow, um, this is fantastic. And I think it was as soon as I read it, as soon as I read it and started going through it and perusing it, I realized that we needed to get George on at some time to kind of give us the backstory of where all this is coming from and all these. Oh, that's a cool ship, George.
Is it? Is
Where'd you
it?
get? Where's this? So talk to us about the ship for a sec.
Oh, I 3D modeled it. What you're seeing is artwork, right? The final artwork in the book. Um, a lot of the props that I would be using constantly, I would 3D model, and then I would use very unique lighting and rendering, so it actually looks like it's hand drawn with pen and ink.
Wow,
Yeah,
wow.
so
So that's
those
quite a
lines
process you're going through.
those lines that you see all around the ship, those are actually 3D rendered lines. It's all it's a very unique process. It's time consuming. A panel like this would take as long as maybe a couple of days doing a normal uh, pencil ink page.
Yeah, it does seem very involved. Oh my god. But the result is spectacular.
Yeah, and there's a lot of nice ways to play with the graphics. I meld the visuals of the book, 3D rendering, photography, traditional art, painting. It's it all gets uh, crunched into a single panel or a page. It's really exciting. I mean, it's just as exciting as writing the story because it's every panel is a challenge.
Yeah. Wow. Um, well, listen, we were talking before backstage, and we wanted to. I, I, I think that the best place to start is at the beginning. So what? How long have you been doing this, and how did you get started, and did you want to do it since you were a kid, or when did you realize you wanted to do this?
Oh, I was enthralled with comic books when I found Joe Kubert's 1 million BC off the variety store shelf. I was enthralled with science when I saw Star Trek on TV in the reruns.
Hmm.
I was uh, absolutely captivated with um, just the science of Earth when I saw Cosmos. And in high school, my English teacher said that if I didn't pick up myself, I would fail. So I said, "What do you need me to do?" She says, "Just give me something." So I did. I wrote my first script, which was overnight, a 50-page script. What if Macbeth and Lady Macbeth had lived? I handed it to her. 1 week later, she gave me the best mark in the class. Then she said to me, "Can you please
Wow.
give me some more?" I said, "Sure." Then I gave her the first script of the book that you see here, which was 20 issues ago. And she said, my English teacher said, "I loved it. I read it. My husband read it. We read it to our kids. I have no idea what's going on here, but it probably would make a great movie." And that was
Wow.
high school. Then I learned my craft in
What year in
college.
high school, George?
I was in high school at the time. I was 14 when I started all this.
Oh, was really like a freshman. Okay.
Yeah, and then I did college. I learned the craft of art and in science, in printing, and also how to use the computer and develop really great visual effects on the page. And then I published my first book in 1990, The
Wow.
Black Diamond Effect. And ever since then, I've been doing a book as often as I can get it done. Joking versus the World's Greatest Average Hero is issue 20, and it's a unique book because it's the first time I've done something oversized, 120 pages of pure science fiction goodness.
And while you're telling us, I'm going to link your website to the chat. Um, now, so is there what's the continuity between the what did you call it? The issues? They're the
The continuity is that these characters here are are the are everything that binds the world together. Joking, Captain DuPont is basically a captain who just wants to get his hours in so he can actually captain a love boat instead of a science vessel. Chef, the tall green guy in the yellow shirt, he is a really great engineer, but he has aspirations of being a cook, and no one's telling him how terrible his cooking is because every time he cooks something, he always sprinkles it with a little seasoning of lug nuts and machine oil. Oldie is one of the old is an old
which
surviving
one's older?
dinosaur.
Oh, okay, I see. I see.
Um, Further over, you have the guy in blue is Ralph, their security robot, and he's completely useless. Everybody gets by him all the time. On the far right is Joe's wife, Slither, and she's so good at practicing being a physician as a doctor that she actually does everything blindfolded just to challenge herself. And then we have the, the the green character in the center, Mistake. She's a robot, but she's also cursed with a genie, the genie's curse. So if anyone ever utters anything around her with the word wish, she'll automatically grant it, and it just never comes out the way they want it. There's other little characters. The Gopher bots are the red shirts of this universe.
Mhm.
They're constant. The receptionist is always on the phone. Female X is basically a reverse of Data, where Data is learning to be human. This human is learning to be human. She has no idea who she is, and it's it's literally the opposite of Data. She's learning everything that makes her. Um, Now
You know,
there's
Adega
one
says it's hilarious. I agree, Adega.
there's one there's two characters in here, three characters in here. Syntax, Pork Chop Ed, and Criplet. Criplet is the sidekick of Syntax. Actually, let me rephrase. Criplet is the sidekick of Syntax. Syntax is the sidekick of Joe. Now, Pork Chop Ed is the sidekick of Criplet. Pork Chop Ed is a master of disguise, but it's only good when no one's looking. And then we have the engine crew: Data Hound, Chopstick, and Loader. But we also have the ships. You saw the first ship on the far right. There's the second ship, which is much bigger than the first ship, and they're both called the Lady Star because every time the captain transfers his flag, so to speak, to a new ship
Hmm.
and commands it, it's always the same name. And I never give it an extra number, an extra letter, or anything like that.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
these are the characters. Their dynamics um, are in constant conflict with each other because they are the misfits of the Federation, so to speak.
Hmm.
And here's the 20 covers of the books. Far second row, far right is the Joe King book.
Wow. So,
Started working on started publishing in 1990, and now it's like 30 years later.
wow. Wow. Now, where do you distribute these?
Self-publishing. I distribute directly myself.
Self-publishing. Wow.
Yeah. Originally, in 1990, I printed. There was three printings of the first issue, but I also distributed the book in GIF file format on a floppy disk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a 700K floppy disk.
Wow. Your level of experience is it's like it's far beyond what I thought when we first started talking, George.
It surprises a lot of people about the level of work that goes into such an endeavor. Yeah, these are just the characters, but when you look at something like this, um, I
Now, can you tell us what that is?
this is a very huge space station.
Oh,
There's a the It's powered by multiple galaxies, the resources of multiple galaxies around it, and inside the center is a singular, a black hole.
oh, wow.
Um, if you were to zoom in, as you would zoom in, you start to realize that this is not a solid. It's just millions upon trillions of planets interconnected in a chain. I haven't done that visual yet because it's just it hurts my brain just to even try to create that visual yet. And it's
Wow.
been 30 years I wanted to create that visual.
Are those whales, George?
Yes, it is space whales
Okay, cool.
right there. Let me pull out something really. Here's another visual here. I'm gonna pull up um, where the here
So,
we go.
George, just to be clear, what is the name of the whole series?
The series itself. It's called the Black Diamond Effect.
The Black Diamond Effect. Okay.
Yeah, and this book is called Joe King versus the World's Greatest Average Hero. There's a lot of concepts in this story. It just it's exciting that you really um, just grasp the level of science in the concepts of reality.
Hmm.
For as an example, all the characters that appear in this story, the reason why they appear and they have such different shapes and sizes and species, so to speak. The only thing that's keeping them together is the common thread of the environment. They need a common environment to survive. And one of the things that I really liked about it was hinted in Star Trek before,
Hmm.
but not to a high degree. It was hinted in Babylon 5. In fact, one level on Babylon 5 was a completely different environment that you can't go in there without a breathing mask.
Hmm.
In Star Trek, there was a character that appeared on the bridge that had two pipes constantly feeding him atmosphere
Yeah.
into his nostrils.
I remember that. Oh,
On the Orville, I mean, when they went down to one of the planets that was heavy with
the gravity.
the gravity,
Yeah.
it was a challenge, and that's the kind of stuff that's really exciting because what you're looking at is there's a concept behind that. It's like the common unconsciousness, where if you have such a wide-ranging police force, the only thing that's keeping the Green Lanterns from collapsing in on themselves is the power ring is supplying each of those lanterns these very specific atmosphere that they need to survive. Well, in science fiction such as the Orville and Star Trek and stuff like this, is that if you have such a huge police force or exploration force, you want to bring together certain species and aliens that have a common atmospheric need. Otherwise, it's just going to be very difficult to have half the ship in liquid while the other half is in gaseous form.
Yeah. George, let me just take a second and I just want to say to Eccleston from all of us here that big hug to Eccleston for your dad and to your dad and to yourself. I hope everything can get fixed soon. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead, George.
No, no, no. I think I answered the question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow, that looks so. What about so? Where do you come up with? I mean, where story wise, how much do you? I assume you're coming up with a story well before you're drawing, or are you just kind of inspired on the art side first and then filling in the gaps, or?
Oh, sometimes it's both.
Mhm.
The early books in the 1990s, I had the script already produced a decade before. But in the 2000s, 2010s to now,
Mhm.
I created the story as I created the visuals. But there is a hero's journey in that,
Yeah.
absolutely. So it does have a narrative, but I also uh, am so interested, in love with some of the concepts that I wanted to explore, and beyond just some of the stuff that they mention in Cosmos. For instance, species, the size of a particular animal or creature. It depends on the environment that they're in. Well, what if the environment is the creature, and we're looking at, say, the Earth. The Earth, if you think about it, it's
Hmm.
a living organism,
Hmm.
and we're part of that living organism. But but it's chained on a gravity well, and it spins around, a fireball, a
Yeah.
nuclear fire. But what if through repulsion, not was it propulsion or repulsion?
Hmm.
The opposite of the gravity well, which something Tesla experimented a lot with, where you have two magnets that are actually pushing away from each other, and he showed that it's very possible that the planets are actually pushing away from each other and keeping that status in the orbit that we now have. That's a different way of thinking compared to a gravity well, where everything spins around something in a greater mass. Well, what if you had these gigantic creatures actually moving through space uh, by that sheer fact? Well, I got that. In fact, there's a few pages in this story that actually address that on that scale, and
You know what
it's
jumps out at me when I talk to you, George?
what's that?
What jumps out at me is I mean the where your ideas are coming from are so grounded that I keep thinking, we've all been talking about Star Trek Discovery, for example, and I'm going to ask you, I'm going to ask you too what you think about it.
Yeah,
But you are so grounded in science and coming up with these amazing stories, but they're grounded, and actually some of your ideas are some of your the evolution of and where your ideas are coming from is so Roddenberry, and it's like it in contrast to what the people in the writers room at Star Trek Discovery just don't know what they don't have their ideas are not coming from this place.
yeah.
And
They're writers. They're not storytellers.
yeah,
That's the difference. Someone can write a wonderful passage of paragraphs strung together into a book, but will that captivate you compared to somebody who can actually tell you a story, who can captivate your imagination? There's a difference between a writer and a storyteller, and I believe while the visuals and some of the concepts in Star Trek Discovery are good, they're just writers. They're not storytellers. Roddenberry, um, uh, Sagan, who did Cosmos, he
mhm,
was a storyteller. He was able to take the science that was before him and actually weave it into a story and captivate an entire world. When he put out Cosmos the first time around, it was incredible.
it was.
When Roddenberry and Fontana and all the great writers at that time, and Rod Sterling, they were telling story. They weren't worried about writing. They were actually telling you a story, and that was the difference between all these people. Asimov, he was telling a story based on the science that was before him and how he extrapolated all that information beyond just the human grasp.
Yep,
And I,
extrapolating. You said it. Yeah.
and it's exciting. It's exciting to take the very concept of a gravity wave, and you can actually measure a gravity wave by having 3 points of lasers targeting each other and seeing, wait a minute, we just went through a gravity wave, but we don't even feel it. That's because reality, from our point of view, is still a solid brick, if you want to call it. 1 inch is still 1 inch, but if you look at it outside our reality, a wave of a gravity wave has just washed over you, and you actually warped the reality, your very existence, the very cellular structure in you, warped for a few seconds as the gravity wave passed you by. It's absolutely fascinating, and this was only proven just recently in the last decade. Now extrapolate the gravity wave, eh, and bring it forward into what would happen if a gravity wave was followed by an explosion. Well, cause and effect. But there's also a wonderful uh, TED Talk video about a camera, a pen. Uh, it's a big scientific science word that I can't even pronounce properly. But
Mhm.
but if you Google the camera that shoots 1 trillion frames a second, and you will see a camera. It's real. It's real. It's real. It's not science fiction anymore. A camera that
Mhm.
has actually captured a single photon of light passing through the air, and they show you the cause and effect. They show you as the photon passes through a Coke bottle, you see the ripples of light, ladies and gentlemen, not just any kind of ripple. The ripples of light as comes, it goes through the Coke bottle. The ripples of light come out away from the Coke bottle, just like you drop a pebble into a pond. And it's absolutely fascinating. But what's really fascinating is that there's a moment in that video where he's showing you, and they just shrug it off. But he's showing you that the ripples are actually coming towards the event instead of away from the event. And he said, that's no problem. We just did some calculations and we fixed the image. No, what he just showed you is the cause and effect, the effect actually happening before the cause at the speed of light, something that Einstein talked about. He captured in a photograph, in a camera that captures trillions of images per second. It's absolutely fantastic that we've actually proven that the cause and effect in time and space is actually real. The science hypothesis is actually real. It's incredible. Sorry for ranting. It's just exciting
No, no,
stuff.
no. I want to listen to everything. And what are we looking at here in this image exactly?
And this particular image is the bad guys. Well, actually, this is the minions of the bad guy who sent them to terraform the planet Earth to create a Stargate.
Oh.
And Joe and his team are here to stop them from creating the Stargate. Because even though the bad guy wants to take over the universe, there is one central problem: the laws of physics that prevent them from doing it so quickly. You can To move throughout the span of the entirety of the universe, you really have to either warp space or go faster than light, and uh, that limitation is going to be a problem. So what you have to do is you have to create stargates, go and move outwards at the speed of light, and at every system or every galaxy that you come across, you create a stargate. So that way, your point from A to B becomes a lot quicker now. It's like setting up a beachhead, and they needed to set up a beachhead on the planet Earth. It was optimum, and the crew is here to stop that from happening. And here, Joe is attracting the six robots away from the Earth.
Are they remind me a little bit of the Sentinels from Matrix? Is that
It was scary and it was inspiring when I first saw that one Sentinel just come into focus. I'm like, oh my God, this is just absolutely spectacular. How can how can I create a visual that looks that awesome, but it's kid friendly?
yeah, yeah.
Because you can't show your 5-year-old that kind of visual. You're just gonna really warp their mind.
No, I think you came up with a good final solution. Wow, that looks cool.
Yeah, there's the Stargate,
That's the Stargate.
and it's already active, and so they're under the pressure to save the planet, save the dinosaurs. And yes, this is taking place a long time ago. Here's another thing about the science. It's been uh, theorized that let's just move past the concept of evolution, all that stuff. Let's just stick with the concept that the Earth has been around for billions of years.
Um,
Go ahead.
George, Adega asks, "Is
Yeah,
that Stargate organic?"
yeah. It's made out. The Stargate's made out of the elements of the Earth.
Okay.
So yes, yes, it is. It's not what do you call it, processed metal. So that those are mountains and minerals and elements of the earth that are put together.
And if I can just interrupt you a sec, George. Hey guys, in the chat, this is really an amazing treat that we're having. So if you guys could share the stream and get it out to our community, that'd be great. Thanks, guys. Go ahead, George. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, the concept is that dinosaurs lived millions upon millions of years ago, and if you look at it from the human evolution of say 250,000, a number of scientists are throwing out right now the current number. So if man is point zero at and then 250,000 where we are now. Well, it's easy to extrapolate that in millions of years we would be spacefaring, going all over the place. So the concept of the dinosaurs uh, being in existence for millions upon millions of years, they would have evolved further enough to actually create the technology to actually leave the planet. And why don't we know any of this? It's because the planet in the long spans of time, has folded over itself as it expands and contracts, and um, mountains collapse, seas, destroy and erode. There's also another wonderful video. I think it was one of the Science Channels. Says, what happens if man just disappeared from the Earth instantly? What happens in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Well, in 25 years, you wouldn't even know that you were in the middle of New York City,
Yeah.
because plant life would have destroyed the entire structure. Or, the metal, the cement, everything, the
Taylor B
wires.
says, thank you. This is so cool, says Taylor.
Well, if anyone's interested, the book's available on my domain site, and you can get yourself the digital. You can get yourself just the book. Shipping's included, so these prices are this. You don't. You look at the price. That's it. There's also an option where you can buy the book and original art. And for anyone who here at the Orville Nation, I'll do original art or Orville original art, like I've been tweeting out
Oh wow.
for you. So
Oh,
you
that's right. You have been tweeting it out. I forgot to include that. I'm sorry, George.
no,
Yeah,
that's okay. That's okay.
George is doing some. We've been sharing it. George has been doing some great. Uh, what do you want to call it? Like sketches of the main cast.
Main cast. I've been doing a lot of art and stuff like this. Let me just bring something up for you, so you can see, like Terminator, Harrison Ford.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, or even just straight black line. The Adams family, Frankenstein. Yeah, the Candy Factory guy.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
It's it's just exciting. I mean, it's exciting to draw. It's exciting to put all together. And
George, is this your sole profession, or are you split? Is your time split with something else?
for the longest time, I've been doing marketing, advertising, and branding.
Hmm.
I, I've branded card captors, Metabots, Beyblades. I created the style guides for Babar, Franklin the Turtle, Elliot Moose, Redwall. Um, it's a huge list. I
Wow.
mean,
So that's a good fit for you, actually, yeah, with the marketing, huh?
yeah, and what I ended up doing in the last 5 years, I've been doing a lot of 3D printing. Um, in fact, I'll just show you. Uh, Angel, I've been taking my 3D
Oh,
skills
I
and
saw that.
producing
Yeah.
3D figurines.
What character is that?
This is just a unique character. I haven't actually put her in the story yet. I just wanted to create something that is uh, challenging.
That looks intricate.
It is. It is. Uh, it's a 50-piece model kit, and she stands about, I think it's, yeah, 11 inches tall. There you go. I'm trying to remember my own toys, but there's also a version of her that's about 2 feet tall,
Oh, wow.
and those are all, that's all 3D printed, ready to go, retail ready, and there's no painting involved at all. That's the actual plastic color.
Wow. So and you're producing this yourself with 3D printing.
Yes, yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Man, wow. You are just like the one man show, huh?
It, it, I didn't understand this concept for a very long time, but Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, in the last few months said something, and that's really kind of put it all together. It's you're collecting a set of skills that will make you a better person uh, in terms of economics, more and more interesting to other people.
Hmm.
And I didn't even think of it that way. I mean,
Wow.
I just saw that 3D printing was a natural expression of the art that I would draw. But even further out, you extrapolate it, and it goes right into the books. It's the car here, and Joe. I needed a layout. I needed the concept um, to work. So I actually modeled Joe and the car in 3D. And then I rotated it and I said, okay, there's the composition that I need. And then the rest was actually drawn by hand.
Wow. Now,
And,
do you have
and
are you do you,
go
do
ahead.
you have people working with you, or are you doing it by yourself?
Oh, I'm by myself. The
Yourself.
writing, the drawing, the coloring, the whole productions, George.
Wow, I'm like amazed the fact that you have integrated. I this is amazing the fact that you've integrated the 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 3D modeling and then the bringing it to life with the 3D printer is just mind-boggling, George.
It is exciting. And this is one of the many panels in the book.
Hmm.
And in this particular panel, I make fun of Doctor Strange. This character is is a sandwich.
Mhm.
SANDWITCH,
Hmm.
right? And it's exciting because this particular panel here is traditionally drawn, but there's some photography in here and also some science. That planet, that blue planet behind it, that's actually our sun with a different color effect. And of course, we have the Kirby crackle after the great Jack Kirby, who created practically the Marvel universe.
Wow. Now, George, did I am I remembering or am I just making this up, or did you exhibit at Comic-Con?
I did. This
Yeah,
was
right, in New
back in
York, right?
'92. Way back in '92.
Oh, okay, not recently, right?
No, no, I didn't
Okay.
do any recent conventions. Actually, no, I did FanCon, or the Toronto version of Comic Con back in 2012. That was the last one I did,
Oh, okay.
and
Wow.
it was exciting. Back in '92, I was 6 feet away from Stan Lee, and all he was at a table. He was at a table. He was totally loaded, and every time he looks up, he goes Excelsior,
That's funny.
and I had a chance to actually shake Jack Kirby's hand when he was doing the rounds. I
Oh,
had
wow.
my booth. I just shook his hand. I didn't know what to say. I was just babbling. I said, "Mr. Kirby," shook his hand. That was it.
Sure, yeah.
In 2012, actually, he shook um, Joe Kubert's hand. And I thanked him so much for inspiring me to bring me into the comic book world. And I was just a mess. I was a total mess. And here's what the books inside look like.
Yeah, they look fabulous on the inside, guys. For those of you guys, if you're just joining us, I've looked through and read like I read probably like a third, and then like went through
It's a
half of it.
dense read. It's a very dense read.
Intense read, but it's amazing. It looks great. It looks fabulous on the inside.
It's a dense read. There this book is 120 pages. But
Yeah.
if I were to and my visual cues are like from Asterix and Tintin, where you're more focused on story than splash pages, and the splash pages only come if they're absolutely necessary. It's not like the comic books today where it's like maybe 4 panels on a page,
Yeah.
at maximum maybe 5 panels on a page. I got 15 panels on a page in some places
Wow.
because the story is moving fast. And let me see if yeah, there. here. The story is moving fast, and the character and the action is intense.
Oh wow.
And
You don't see that all the time.
this story, the way I've designed this is there's another level to this production in terms of science and linking it back to the Orville, linking it back to Star Trek, Babylon 5, um, it, just everything all the concepts is that, when you actually break the fourth wall in like Twilight Zone in the Night Gallery, when Rod Serling comes and talks to the audience just before he brings you into the show, brings you into the story. Well, I break the fourth wall, but in such a way that it's still contained within the story. And for instance, in these 15 panels here, you'll notice it's deep in action. But the top middle panel up here, actually, let me find. Okay, that's a photograph. Let me actually find the page, so that way it looks much better. Here we go. There we go. Much better.
Oh wow. Looks
So
great.
all this action is happening sideways. It's not happening. It's not happening left and right, going down to the next panels. Everything here is happening sideways. So
Oh wow.
there's
Oh yeah.
five different
Yeah, yeah.
actions, five different scenes that are happening at the same time in this particular part of the book.
That is freaking cool, George.
It gets even cooler. Get this:
That is
the,
cool.
the
That is an
panel, the
awesome idea.
panel at the top middle,
I've never seen that.
the panel at the top middle is
Yeah.
being affected by the panel in the bottom middle.
The top middle
Yeah, the
is
top middle.
being
This panel here,
yeah.
where the cells creatures are getting sniped.
Yeah.
Well, they're getting sniped because this guy, Oldie, on the planet is actually shooting. Right?
Dude, that's freaking awesome, George.
He goes, there,
I've
got
never
it, missed,
ever
got
seen that
it. There,
in a
there.
vision.
Someone get my hat. His hat fell because he's looking straight up. He's on the planet, he's looking straight up, and this is what's happening in orbit, right up here.
Wow.
And
That's great.
and
I
all
love
this
it.
is happening one right after the other. So
Now the reader gets used to you doing this sometimes?
yeah, because I have arrows pointing
Yeah.
on the far left here. So I'll bring the next page up. So let's look at Joe right up here, Joe, and let's focus in on the first line and the fourth line. Okay,
Hmm.
so you see Joe and what's going on, and then you see his wife down here with female X. Now you
Yeah.
see right here his wife saying, "Hey, my Joey has come for me." All right, and then
Uh-huh.
you look up here, you see Joe looking back. He sees his wife. All right, and down here, you see from her point of view, looking out the window, sees Joe.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I see George.
There's a lot of visual cues
I'm
in this.
Joey. Yeah.
Your experience when you pick up this book is there's a lot of visual cues. When you read the book one time,
Yeah.
yeah, you're going to go back and read it a second time because there's a level of visual cues in this book that you start connecting the dots. You get a completely different narrative, but
Oh my
then
god. I
it
mean,
gets
yeah.
it even gets more involved. So
The
here's the next
experience
page. Sorry, go ahead.
the reader's experience is so
It's
rich.
multi-layered. It's
Yeah.
multi-layered. This is not a usual graphic novel production. This is like you buying yourself a puzzle book,
Hmm.
but instead of you taking a pen and scribbling in the book, the puzzle is visually in the book. It's
Yeah.
written in the book. The narrative, how the panels are arranged, is also a part of it. There's also a layer of storytelling in this book that you only pick up if you actually read between the panels, which I'll show you at a later point. But let's go to the first panel. You see Joe talking to his wife, and then
Yeah.
he takes off. And then from her point of view,
Yeah.
he takes off. She turns towards female X.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
And here is at the bottom left corner is Oldie still shooting off his gun, and in the center panel, first panel, the his bullets are still hitting the cell creatures.
That's great.
And he
So
stopped shooting because he says, they're heading over the horizon. I can't continue firing anymore.
I gotta tell you, what I mean, this must be extremely time consuming for you.
Oh, it's some of these panels here
Hmm.
took days to produce.
I bet. Wow.
This is not your regular comic book. This has been in production for a long time.
Can I ask
120.
how long
If I were to expand this book and compose it the way normal comic books are produced today, with 5 panels on a page at most, this would be about 500 pages.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh my God.
you're getting all this in a nice, tight, solid 120-page package.
And it
But
makes like the reader, it makes the kid who's reading it think a lot too.
oh my gosh, here's the example of the next level. There's notes between the panels, just like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. When the characters are going through their story, their hero's journey, you would pick up all of a sudden the guide would actually give you some descriptions of what's going on around the environment and certain things. I have that in the book. I have it between the panels
Wow.
constantly, constantly. I'll pull. Let's see. Where's a page that has a lot of between the panels? Here we go. So you read this page, you're pretty much getting the action that you see on this page. But then if you actually read between the panels, you actually find out why certain things are happening, why um, keeping quiet around mistake is very, very important. It's there. And there's a lot of there's a visual gag in this to-do list. It, it's it's deep. It's deep. And there's some visual gags that when you actually go through it one time, you'll
Yeah.
start to realize that a particular visual gag that you saw on page one actually interconnects with a visual gag somewhere around 30, and which connects to another visual gag around 110, and you'll start to get a completely different narrative altogether. And all this is because of the science that is being played out in the Orville. The Orville, Star Trek, and all that stuff. Orville specifically, because right now this is our go-to science fiction. That and the Expanse. And the
Hmm.
Expanse is more on the trying to be as real as possible, and which is fantastic in space or exploration.
What do
But
you
the
think
Orville,
about
what's that?
about the experience, George?
What I think about it? I thought it was great. I haven't read the books, but I was really enthralled with the fact that they had a lot of the stuff that was missing out of Star Trek, not the Orville, out of Star Trek. When a spaceship comes to a full stop, anything that's not pinned down, it's just going to hit the windshield.
Hmm.
you're you're gonna be liquid, and that was expressed in the Expanse very well, actually.
When the guy hit the gate and his face flew off of his skull.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh
but
man, that
but
was gory, but
but a lot of
it was
that science fiction,
yeah.
it's not fiction, but just the physics is also expressed in the Orville as well, which actually blew my mind. It's like, yeah, there's the humor element, which is fantastic. It keeps it light, but there's also that serious drama in there. For instance, the part where the robots wanted to just conquer the galaxy, and you saw all the skulls in the basement, so to speak.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
time travel story. Oh, that time travel story was just absolutely rock solid.
Yeah.
It's like you're going, how are they going to get out of this? And they leave it right up until the very last second, when she says, yeah, I'll go on the second date with you. It's like, oh my God, all that struggle, they pulled something similar with Voyager. I think it was like a year in hell or something like that. I think was the story. It's just absolutely incredible. And a lot of that goes right back to the science that we know today through Planck, through Einstein, Newton, Carl Sagan, who pulled it all together and presented it to you in a great narrative.
Mhm.
And it just sits there, and you go like, wow, there's a lot of stuff here that you can actually pull and bring it into your experience.
You know, George, you know what I had talked about on when I was on Doomcock last, like, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I talked about how, because a lot of people don't know this, that Seth brings his animation expertise to his filmmaking.
oh
Er,
yes,
and apparently, it's apparently his show, when they're producing the show, they start the filming season. Every single script, everything is finished, and
yes,
it's finished to a point where they're just polishing it off.
yes,
And it's not like any other TV show where they're filming episode one and there's the guys in the writers' room are still working on episode four.
yes.
And so that I think what is happening is, like, there's a level of polishing off the scripts that we haven't seen in a lot of other series.
Well, that's Seth MacFarlane is bringing the way I see the Orville
Hmm.
is he's bringing the a lot of the great actors in Hollywood are actually comedians. A lot of the great actors are comedians. They know how to deliver a line, whether it's for a humor or whether it's dramatic. They know how to deliver a line. The comedians are just so well. I mean, the great Robin Williams, who passed away, is one of the best dramatic actors
I
that
know, right?
ever
I,
came out of Hollywood.
when he did the Moscow movie,
Right.
and when he did some serious role, yeah, he was. Yeah, I
A-
agree.
and Seth MacFarlane and his endeavor it, and his clever production with the Family Guy and everything else that he's produced. There's a level of comedy there that, yeah, okay, it's all comedy. It's the jokes are what do you call, obtuse, not acute, but at the same time, the level of production in what he's doing is very precise. You need to know where you're going from point A to point Z and everything in between. That doesn't happen in scripted series a lot.
Yeah.
Whether it's was it Blue Bloods or uh, any one of the cop dramas or hospital dramas or anything like that. It's like, here's a script. We have a certain time limit to read the dialogue in. You know, do your thing. With MacFarlane, he's got, okay, I got the script. Let's look at the storyboards. Let's look at the composition. Let's see where we're going with this. Just how much are we going to layer in here? And then, as people are doing their acting, there's an entire visual effects department actually knowing that there's a particular composition that's going to be complementing the acting. I mean, there's just what Norm Macdonald character who's just a blob for crying out loud is such an incredible you know concept.
Isn't it amazing how they took like the equivalent oh, of I was gonna say Frodo. They took the equivalent of Odo from Deep Space Nine, and and instead of giving him form, they kept him formless. And yeah, he is. There's so much in that character, and like Gary says on Nerdrotic, we care more about the blob than than any other character, like any character on like Star Trek Discovery.
Exactly, exactly. And the dialogue, the timing is delivered by a comedian. And you're looking at the blob and you're saying, okay, okay, here comes the comedy moment. But sometimes it's like a lot of the times, it's not funny. It's serious, action, serious drama happening when you actually switch over, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh, where's this coming from? It's like you want to laugh and you want to cry and you want to be angst. You want to feel a little tension in the scene, and this is that concept, which is
yeah,
so expertly produced in TV by Seth MacFarlane's productions, is what I'm trying to do with this book. Is I've made the characters look like they're cartoons.
I love it.
And
For anybody who's just joining us, sorry, George,
yeah,
anybody who's just joining us, guys, the some of the stuff that we've been talking about, you're going to have to go back and go look at it because George is extremely innovative. He's like accomplished like George Lucas's dream of in the what would have been George Lucas's dream in the 70s of taking of concept to toy and like in his own backyard or in his own garage. And this guy, I mean, this is a real treat we have tonight, guys. So I would urge you, if you're just joining us, to later on go back and watch the entire thing. Sorry, George. Go ahead.
okay, no, that's great. Thank you. Um, Greetings, everyone who just arrived. The comment on consciousness, which I mentioned just previously, is that when you have a large group of people, creatures, all within the same proximity, there, the thing about us is that we generate electricity. That it's a given. It's a quantifiable uh, uh, phenomenon. We generate electricity in our body. Part of the concept of the matrix is that the robots uh, slave humanity so they can literally grow themselves batteries so they can continue living. Well, the thing is, our brains also are electrical in nature. In some cases, the electricity, if it's in the right frequency, we're either reading each other's minds or we're having intuition of what the other person's thinking. That's the common unconsciousness. We don't have physical communication with each other. We don't have visual communication with each other. We just feel that somewhere around us something is happening. Someone is hurt. Maybe if I go down this street, take a left, there's someone there that is in need of my help. It's that level of science that's within the story. Is that with this particular story here, is everyone's in the same common unconsciousness. But in the next book that I'll be producing, I'm going to be taking the common unconsciousness out of the equation and bringing in more science, more impossible physics that we think are impossible, but every day as we progress towards the future, we're calling it science fact. I mean, it's only been what 50, 60 years that the handheld communicator is now a reality. That the bioscanner is a reality. I mean, you're wearing a bioscanner every day if you have a smartwatch.
You know what's funny, George, is that the handheld communicator the open and snap, the open and shut phone has come. It's actually even gone already. Like
Yeah,
people don't even use it anymore.
yeah, we're past that. In fact, if anyone here is clever enough, there was a company. It was back 15 years. We actually produced a cell phone exactly like the handheld communicator. So when
Yeah.
you flip it, you got all the noise and everything, and it's actually a cell phone, right? They did it a one-time release, and that was it. And of course, the technology behind it is pretty much dead. And I'm thinking is I could actually 3D print a casing that has the entire communicator, and you can just fit your iPhone or your Samsung phone, just slip it in there. So next time you pick up your phone to make a phone call, just flick the casing.
Oh, that's cool.
It is. I mean, there's just so much you can do when you are able to actually have your own little personal manufacturing plant in your house. And think about that for a moment. They
Yeah.
had the replicator that was actually producing parts and food and stuff like that. And 3D printing is now available. If you get the right printer, you get yourself a little knowledge in the situation. You can actually have your own science fiction replicator in your premises.
Yeah, isn't that cool? You're absolutely right. Yeah.
It's absolutely fascinating. It's exciting to no end to actually see uh, the stuff that happens in the Orville, and you're looking at it and going like, "Wow, they've taken Star Trek, they've ramped it up to 11." And then you're looking at the Expanse. They've taken concepts of the Expanse and they've wrapped it up to 13. And you're looking at all this and going like, yeah, you know what? I'm really excited for the next season. I'm really excited for the next season after that. There's just so much inspiration here.
There is. Wow. Um, so for anybody of you, any of you guys are just joining us, um, this is a real treat. George Peter Gatsis is part of our community and part of the greater community that we're all involved in. Um, and oh, well, I'm sorry, I goofed. One sec, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong. Okay. Um, and George started doing this in high school when he was like a freshman or something. And the level of innovation that he's been showing us, if you're just joining us, that's a cool ship. Like I want a model of that.
I actually have the 3D model. I'm preparing. Um, I'm tweaking it here and there so that it looks awesome when I actually produce it in 3D printing. But it's going to be available.
Wow.
And this is not as big as the perception. This ship here is as big as a couple of buses. And the one thing I like about Doctor Who is that the concept of the TARDIS is that it's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside.
Okay.
Well, these particular ships have the same kind of we call quantum flux or shift in reality. So there's a reality generator there where you actually the inside of the ship is actually slightly bigger than the outside. So these ships are really good for smuggling, by the way. They're and it's also a rental.
They're really good for smuggling.
And here the characters are actually on a planet. They
Hmm.
landed on one of the many planets in this particular solar system, and this planet
I like the
is
underside of that.
constantly moving, constantly the shapes, the mountains, the atmosphere, the plant life is constantly moving, and they're trying to figure out why that is happening, and at the same time make sure the ship stays far enough away so there was not a scratch on it because the premiums on the return is just terrible. And here they are crashed. Unlike your traditional away team or science team or military team, these guys are finding the best way possible out of every situation. So Oldie the dinosaur, he's sitting back in his suntan outfit, just relaxed, chilling out. Yeah, you crash the ship into a jungle planet. It doesn't get as fun as that. The other thing that was great about the Orville is that while the stories were singular, I mean, they had a they hinted on the time travel concept in the first season,
Yep.
which I'm going like, oh my god, are they going to actually crank it up a little
Oh my
in the
God.
next season?
You want to hear what theory I have, George?
Yeah, go ahead, do it.
Listen, imagine, because I actually think this is going to happen. Because Seinfeld's been on the on the Orville. Imagine them going back in time to I don't know, to fix Star Trek. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. It's crazy, but did I lose you, George? Did I lose your audio, George? Or did I lose? Can you hear me, George? Okay, so it looks like we lost George. He'll be back. Must have been the internet connection or something. Wow. So we've been planning to do this for a while, guys, and and as the more I talked to George, the more interested I was in it. But I didn't realize the level of innovation that he's been explaining to us. What's up, Dega? Hey, Mac. Hey, General Podrosky. Thanks for all you guys for joining us and everybody who was here before. We just lost George, but he'll be back. So this is a real treat. And from what I've read, I I actually am gonna get into his comic, into the Black Diamond um, series because um, I liked it to start, but now that he's explaining it to us, I'm liking it a lot more. I'm like, wow, hold on. All right, we got George back. You back, George?
I'm back. I'm back.
Mhm.
I had to restart the browser.
Sure.
Okay, let me get back to the share screen here real quick. Okay.
What a treat, George. I am so glad we set this up. And I'm sorry it took so long. I
No,
had
no, it's
my
okay.
personal.
It's exciting to be here. It's exciting to talk about the Orville of all things,
Hey,
and
George,
the
did you?
expanse, and the greatness of Star Trek that once was.
Yeah. Did you end up connecting with Gary or Trey from Axonar?
No, just through super chats, trying to get their attention to have a look at the book. Um,
Yeah.
I've I've finished the delivering of the book to all the backers so far, and if anyone wants to get in on this right now, they can get the book inexpensively for a digital file or a printed file or the printed version.
What
Because
is the
within
printed cost again?
$39, $39.
$39.
That's it. Shipping is included anywhere in the world.
Oh, that's great.
It's a one-time cost. You don't have to think about what the cost of shipping is.
And George, I'm going to put the links again in the chat, but um, how long? So the Joe versus how long has this project been in the works?
Um, I did the first draft back in 2011.
Oh, okay, wow.
This particular story, 120 pages, I did the first draft back in 2011, and it was about 32 pages. A year ago, I finished the book at about 96 pages. when I offered it on Indiegogo, I offered it as a 96-page book. But then, after the Indiegogo campaign had finished,
Mhm.
I looked at it. I wanted to, stuff it with a lot more stuff, many more concepts, more story. So I ramped it up to 120 pages as the final product.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there were some places where I said, you know what, I'm gonna put this concept in there, and then I said, will be too much. And then I realized, wait a minute, I'm doing a whole Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy gag here, where I can have the, descriptions of certain things happen between the panels. As an example, these dinosaurs here are collecting the fruits of their farming, but there's also a description underneath it that actually says, how they farm and what they farm.
Wow.
Let me pull that here. There's one. I don't remember the name of the writer, but there was one concept where where the writer said that dinosaurs back then were so predatorial that they would only communicate, specifically T-Rex, right? They would only communicate at a great distance, because if they came anywhere close to each other, they would actually, the territorial instincts would take over, and they would attack each other until one of them is dead. So they communicate at a great distance with telescopes.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, that's a really fantastic concept. That, it's almost like a chemical addiction. If you're beside someone, is somehow your entire thinking has just been altered, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're just a slave to that instinct.
Yeah, Adega says makes for rough dating, rough mating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You phone everything in.
Yeah, Adega. By the way, guys, we're gonna have Adega on here real soon talking about all his stuff, which is gonna be really interesting. So this is just an amazing. I didn't think I would when I started the channel. I didn't think I would find this level of talent in our community, guys. This is a real treat. Thanks, George.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure being here talking about all things Orville, all things science fiction. I mean, it's just an absolute pleasure. I mean, here's a subtle page in the book where Joe has to make it from where he is to the North Pole, and it's just very subtle.
Is the one in the middle a buffalo?
What's that?
Is that a buffalo in the middle?
That's a buffalo. Yes, I'll zoom in here. So he starts off looking for sad music on his Walkman. So he can't find any sad music, and as he's making his way north, he communicates with the animals, because that's one thing about being able to meet many different species of creatures and stuff from different planets, is that your communication skills are a little more robust than just in language. And Joe's able to communicate with a lot of the animals as he's making his way to the North Pole. Here, the bear's telling him a sad story that he's experienced. The buffalo is actually giving Joe the eye. That's why he crunched up his red cape, so the buffalo won't charge at him. And as he's going into the north, the walrus just watches him just sail right by.
You love science, don't you, George?
It's a way of life. It is. I mean, when you see things that appear in entertainment, and they have a science fiction twist to it, you gotta sit back and actually, look at it, respect it, and analyze it. I mean, everybody's talking about the poor quality of Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker. Oh, okay, let's get past the terrible story narrative, and let's look at some of the concepts that are in there. I mean, there's not a lot of concepts, unique concepts in the Disney Star Wars trilogy as there were in, say, a half hour out of the Lucas Star Wars trilogy. But there was some concepts there that were actually quite unique. A planet that um, is ice. You know, that's pretty cool. How are we doing? Testing, testing, testing. Can you hear me? Can everybody in the chat hear us? I can't hear you. Uh, can't. Oh, you can hear me. Excellent. Yeah, he'll be jumping right back in here. I think it's just a glitch in Stream Yard. So anyone in the chat has any questions? Exciting, isn't it? Yeah, here we go. It happens. And Orville Nation is fixing it. He's coming back in.
Okay, sorry guys. Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
yeah, I can hear you just well, very well.
Okay, go ahead. I this something I don't know what happened.
It's the science of gremlins.
I gotta tell you, this works really well. It's just sometimes, like you said, gremlins, gremlins on the wings.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a tiger in Africa, really? Yeah, you know what? I've been talking too much about this. What about you? What brought you all into this? Into this community, into all this that you're doing.
I first of all, we're here to listen to you, but I will answer because I'm loving everything you're saying. But I basically, George, I decided I want to like kind of take a break from everything I've been doing, and I wanted just to do something that I love. So I just decided one day I'm gonna start doing a YouTube channel and a spin-off channel. We were about to I love this. The Look Back to the Future is inspired. We were about to kick off a Star Wars channel, but to be honest, I'm just I don't I'm not going to dedicate a whole channel to Star Wars if if they're putting out what they're putting out. I don't
Yes,
know. What are your feelings on?
yes. You can't lock yourself into um, just Star Wars. You have to lock yourself into, or yeah, talk about the concept. The way everything kind of brings us together. I mean,
Yeah,
up until Disney took Star Wars, up until the BBC changed Doctor Who, up until the current iteration of Star Trek, all these three juggernaut brands were a way of life.
hmm
It was a way of life. There were people who were getting married in a TARDIS environment. People were getting married in Star Trek uniforms. People were getting married dressed as Slave Leia and Luke or Han and stuff like
yeah,
that.
and
You know,
naming their
their
kids and
their
stuff.
kids too. You know, they They were all, the kids were looking forward to not Christmas, they were looking forward to Halloween, dressing up.
I know, right?
It's a way of life. Your very lexicon, the way you communicate to people. These are not the droids you're looking for. These are not the files that you're looking for. This is not the car that you're looking for. This is not the drink that you're looking for because, say your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend is wanting to take a sip out of your drink and you don't want to give it to them because it's such a great cherry Coke, right? And what are you going to say? Well, this is not the drink you're looking for.
I take it that's your line.
I try to use it as often as I can. It doesn't work.
Oh, MacGyver says I had noticed a lot of streamers had trouble. Okay, yeah, I guess we're one of them, MacGyver. MacGyver, are you Richard Dean Anderson in disguise? I think you are.
And you
um,
know what? There's also something really exciting. I'm going to be pulling it up right now. Is that Volkswagen Beetle? Um, I'll pull up a 3D file so I can show you. I've been showing you art
yep.
right now. I'm gonna pull up an actual 3D file so you can see
Oh, that's cool.
in 3D what's the underpinning of all this stuff. So you can.
George, do you teach at all? What your trade or
I
no?
do. I do.
You do.
I'm a script doctor for 30 years.
Okay.
Um, I teach. I've taught in class desktop publishing, graphic design. I've taught, and it it's it's exciting because the experience that I throw out to people is actual practical experience.
hmm
Here's the Joe with the beetle that I'm sharing right now.
Oh, I've seen this. I think.
Yeah, this is the cover.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Here's how I figured out what the composition of the cover is. Let me just hide everything and only show you the polygons.
Cool.
Where's the
Now,
polygon?
George, do you? I mean, are you? I know you're a one man show, but do you look for young talent maybe to grow your brand, like helpers or not?
Yeah, yeah. That's. Thank you for saying that. Yes, absolutely. I have been considering that, and at one point, and the reason why the book Joe King is the way it is.
Mhm.
All the other books were anywhere between 20 and 32 pages. And, I mean, this is the first time I actually said, you know what, I'm going to push this to 120 pages. I'm going to make it rock solid. So it's going to be sitting on the shelf right next to Asterix and what do we call it?
You just brought up something I wanted to. If I can just jump into
Yeah,
one
yeah. Go ahead.
while you
Yeah,
show us this, some of your stuff
yeah.
has, to me, as somebody who travels a lot, has almost a European feel to it. Is that am I on? Is
Oh,
that
you're
something
you're
there?
you're absolutely correct. A lot of the influences are from the vintage masters: Al Williamson, Alex Raymond, um, Will Eisner,
Mhm.
uh, everything that was in the Asterix books, everything that was in the Tintin books. It all these gentlemen knew how to produce and knew how to write story,
Oh yeah.
but they also knew something about the sleight of hand and visuals that was absolutely fantastic. In fact, there was one scene that Al Williamson did in one strip, one newspaper strip, where he had a character walking towards a moped, and he gets on the moped and rides away. Oh, you look at it, you go, okay, no problem. But if you actually look closer, you'll realize that the moped that he drew was from a photograph reference, but he didn't have a photograph reference of the different angle. So he drew two different mopeds in the strip composition of 4 panels. And but if you look at it and you read it and the way it's presented to you, you don't even see it until you actually look at it and go, wait a minute, that's not the same moped. In fact, that's a different design altogether. And, there's a lot of visual cues, a lot of great gags. For instance, George Perez did it really well for the modern age. What the
Yeah.
masters did.
By the way, George, I don't, I love comics, but I can for comics, I am kind of a normie, so any
No, no.
like
George Perez is the
I
guy
might not
who.
be picking out all these names.
Okay, George Perez is the guy who drew Crisis on Infinite Earths and New Teen Titans back in the '80s.
Okay.
He's known for highly detailed backgrounds, and what he ended up doing was he drew a highly detailed page, and then the next 3 or 4 pages were just characters with very little background,
Hmm.
just hinting of what the background is, and then he drew another detailed page, and then again another 4 to 5 pages of just
Great contrast.
characters with very little background. And then you would sit back and say, "Wow, that was a really dense book, and it had a lot of detail in it." But no, it didn't. There was like maybe 5 pages of detail. Everything else was very, very simple. And here's the composition. I mean, this is how it basically looks like on the cover,
Yeah.
right there. And then I use this as a guide to draw the cover.
Wow.
And the beauty behind is and this is, by the way, Maya. Okay, it's a very detailed, very robust, very expensive piece of software. They animate the dinosaurs with this.
What was the software again, George?
It's called Maya.
Maya.
Yeah, and the 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 beauty behind this software is that it's very robust. It does a lot of wonderful things. But the one thing that's really amazing is that you can don't save. Okay, I'm gonna load something awesome right now. You like that DeLorean that you saw? That's
Diego
that
liked it. I liked it too.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna bring it up right now. Is You'll see the 3D file. The wonderful thing about 3D is back in the old day when 3D wasn't really much of a normal thing, is that you would have to do cutouts. You draw the different planes of the walls, and then you tape them together into a house, so you can pivot the house around, and you can see how you're going to draw, that particular composition. Well, here we go. Zoom out. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is what happens when you take the Millennium Falcon and you combine it with a DeLorean.
That's cool. Like, that's interesting. I see it now. Now I see it.
Yeah, there's the side of the Millennium Falcon and the door. There's the back of the Millennium Falcon, and maybe a little bit of the thrusters. But then, you know the but you know what? You know what's exciting about this is that it's fully animatable.
Oh wow.
I can let me bring to you. Let's see, where's the controllers? I'm gonna bring the controllers out. Okay, so these are the wheels. These are the wheels. Here we go. The doors.
Mm. Cool.
Let me just hide the joints.
That's good. That's fine. Actually, it's nice to see. It's kind of cool to see how the whole program works.
So there you go.
Oh wow, that's cool. Now, George, do you ever see yourself doing? because I know a lot of people talk about this. Hi, Kathia. How you doing?
Hi, Keith. Yeah,
Um, do you ever see yourself doing a completely 3D animated version of this?
I have. I have a 40-minute animated film on my
Oh,
YouTube channel.
oh, well, I didn't see that. Okay, cool.
It's a very subtle. I don't talk about it much. It's the first draft, but there's enough animation there, enough character animation um, to get the idea. I tried to do like a Roadrunner Coyote gag
Hmm.
in that 40 minutes. There's no actual dialogue. There's just action, action, and a reaction. And let me show you something really awesome about this model. Okay, in terms of the details,
Hmm.
right? So I'm gonna.
I'm just
This
gonna
is the
link
wheels.
your YouTube channel while you tell them why you do that.
Let me pull this out here. Let's see. Open door. Open door. All right. So, oh, sorry. Wheels flying. Wheels driving normal. Here we go. Hide. 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 Hide the controllers. Okay. So if you look closely,
Oh my god, I've been unsubscribed from your channel.
no, it's okay. Just
Okay,
resubscribe.
well I'm subscribing
It's
again.
I've had to resubscribe to many channels in the last month
Uh-huh.
on Twitter and also on YouTube. It's terrible. But look at this. Here's the wheels spinning, and the wheel spin. Also, the steering wheel spins too.
Oh, that's cool. Wow. So how long would it take me to learn how to use a program like that? What if somebody who doesn't know? A while, huh?
There are tutorials. There's a beautiful thing about YouTube and the internet. There's a tutorial online for everything that you want. And follow this. I have this wonderful story. I was at a Costco one time,
Hmm.
and I got to know one of the cashiers, and he told me, this will probably be the last time you see me. I said, why? Because I'm going to save my money up to go learn 3D modeling and all that stuff. I said, what do you mean you saved up your money? He goes, yeah, it's going to cost me like $30,000. I said to him, no, please don't do that. Don't do that at all. He goes, why? I said, you can spend a fraction of that money. Get yourself the computer, buy yourself the software, and go to YouTube and self-teach yourself.
Yeah, go to
And
Udemy or
what
something.
happens when you finish learning is that you have the software and you own the software and you own the computer, and it'll be with you all the time. When you finish that $30,000 course, you will not own a computer, you will not own the software, you'll just have something in your head and maybe something reasonable enough to get hired with. And he said, oh my God, thank you so much. And then a couple of years later, I actually saw him, bumped into him. I said, how's it going? He goes, I got a job. I did exactly what you said. I'm working as a junior modeler.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool. These programs are really cool. I see friends of mine using them, and
Here,
they just look amazing.
here's the wheels and let me just switch this around. This is the wheels in the flying motion. No, hide.
Is there a name for this vehicle?
This is the car that delivers the pizza.
Oh, okay.
One of the gags in the story is that they order the pizza before they went into action, so the pizza would be there, hot and ready, after they saved the day. So this is the pizza delivery car,
That's cool.
and here is the rendering lines for the car.
Oh.
These are just the rough rendering lines. The final rendering lines have more characteristics than
I
this.
really see the Falcon now. I can see it. I can see a Domino's Pizza logo on that.
Oh yes, timely pizza. Let me switch over back to the other window. Share, and there you go.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah, share this,
yep.
and there you go. That's what that 3D car, 3D prop looks like in composition on the scene.
Wow. Wow.
It's really exciting. It's just playing with the science of this, playing with the science, being able to bring it and bring the some of the uh, fringe concepts into a narrative, into a book narrative with a story. You know, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. I cannot express just how exciting it is, and to actually present this to people, to present this to adults. The adults will read this book and they come away with multiple layers of reading experience. You present this to kids, the kids will pick up on the visuals. They will pick up on the dialogue in the panels. But then when they start to actually go, Dad, Mom, uh, what is the comment on consciousness? You know, why is there two or three different types of dinosaurs in this story? For instance, I showed you the dinosaurs before the evolution, and here on the right side is the dinosaurs with millions of years of evolution.
Hmm.
This you can Google this concept, and what if the dinosaurs evolved millions of years later?
Well,
And this
these
and
guys
this is the
probably
basic
evolved.
idea of what the dinosaurs would look like.
Hmm.
And they played this concept really well in Voyager. I forgot what the name of the story. I think it was called Heritage or something like that.
Where? I'm trying to think. In
The
Voyager.
Voyager was overtaken by this huge ship, and it was transported into the
Oh
belly
yeah.
of the ship. And they realized, wait a minute,
Yeah,
we
the
have a
huge.
common
That's right.
ancestor, Earth. But the dinosaurs were not happy with the fact that such peasants
Yeah, that's
as
right.
the Voyager crew could be associated with them.
Yeah, totally. Marty's Pizza.
And also there's a sub story in the book where the dinosaurs, do you want to destroy the planet Earth? Maybe, but let's just take care of our people first, and then we can plan that later. A plot element that's for the next book.
Wow. So, how far ahead, or how much into your next book are you in?
I have the whole book worked out. I've been creating the visuals um, for the last couple of months. Then the next book will probably um, be available for crowdfunding in the later the fourth quarter of 2020.
Okay.
Um,
Well, we definitely want to help you with that.
yeah.
Promote that.
Well, right now, if people can buy and get this book, I still have some books left over from the first printing. They can buy directly from the online store,
Okay.
which is right at my website.
Yeah.
Which, here we go. You can still get the book. You know what, for everybody at the Orville Nation, if you get the $79 tier perk, I will give you 3 original pieces of art, and you just name your character, and I will draw that
Oh
for you.
wow. Cool. So if
Good.
okay, so
I
don't
I
uh,
want you to have this book, and I also want you to have an original piece of art with it. You know,
that's
it
very
makes it
generous, George.
exciting. But if you just want to get the book, the book's there available. If you want to get the digital version of the book, you can for $9.99. And if you like the digital version enough, you want to get the printed book. And since you already bought the digital version, I will subtract the cost of the digital version from the printed book for you.
Okay, fabulous.
Yeah, I want to get this book in your hands, in the audience hands, because it's like you said, it's Orville Nation. It's like for it's it's exciting. It's exciting to have good science fiction, good
We
story
need it.
presented to us finally. I mean,
Yeah, we're gonna put all these links up in the final description of the video, by the way, guys. And we're gonna definitely, if George is okay, we're gonna definitely have George back for more of this if you're up
oh,
to it.
absolutely. I love talking about science fiction. I love the physics, some of the concepts. Like, for instance, one of the concepts that I actually took out of this story was specifically um, a planet-size spaceship. Okay, basically you stick a bunch of large rockets on the back of a big rock, and that becomes your spaceship through the solar system or through the galaxy, through the universe. Why?
Wow.
Is because you're not creating the resources. You're not building the resources to protect your crew. The resources are already there
Keith,
in the rock itself.
yeah.
It will stop the particles. It will stop a large part of the radiation coming through. It will stop a large part of the particular matter that's is floating in space. But it doesn't really hurt you if you're moving through normal space. But if you're going faster than the speed of light, that single particle that may get in your way will actually be devastating.
Yeah.
So
Um,
you, imagine a big rock with rockets on the back and has craters. Like a moon, it has craters because many rocks and asteroids and meteors would impact on the moon. Imagine that moving through space, just like Space 1999, right?
I think that's an amazing concept, George. I want to get to Kathy's question. She has a question for you about. She says, "What about Bunny? Have you talked about the bun, or do you know what she's talking about?"
Okay, what's the question again?
Kathy's asking, "What about Bunny?"
Bunny. What about Bunny? Have you talked about the? Oh, I have no idea what you're talking about, but that sounds like a funny question. What about the bunny? Oh yes, 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 yes.
You know what it is she's talking about?
I know exactly what. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let me.
Thanks, Kathy.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to bring you to Double O Fluffy Fluff FLU Fluffy.com. Double O Fluffy is this is the character that appeared in one page of the book. Actually, he was mentioned in a few pages, but the build up to the punchline was a James Bond rabbit.
That's funny. This is yours.
Yeah, this is mine. This is mine.
Okay.
The gag is that um, Double O Fluffy actually is in the next story. The
Oh,
next story. The
really?
next story. I put this out as a gag because what you're seeing these 6 panels here and this big panel here is is right out of the book,
Oh,
right?
wow.
But
Oh,
but
that's out of the. Okay, wow.
okay,
I like the first one.
yeah.
With
Let's see if I can zoom in.
yeah, I like the first one.
Give me a
Excellent.
sec. I'm gonna try something different here. Uh, Here we go. Oh, okay. There we go. So I do the gag on James
Kathy
Bond, the
loves
target.
this.
and he lights a cigarette. In the fourth panel, he lights a cigarette as he's blown because the robot shooting lasers lights a cigarette. The robot's dead, and the villain, who happens to be a very good-looking girl, apparently, hands him some booze.
Cool. Well, thanks for bringing that up, Kathia, because you got to show us this.
Yes, yes, thank you.
I
I,
love
I,
those books.
I completely forgot. So, as a gag, I put this up. The next story starts off with the rabbit and the mystery, a James Bond type mystery,
Yep.
which leads to all the concepts that we talked about. I like to keep the story narrative completely um, fresh and different, while still actually heading towards a particular goal. I'll tell you right now, the goal in the next book is third space. Exactly what happened in Babylon 5 movie Third Space. That huge big battle at the end, where you had these ancient aliens who came through a Stargate, and they threatened the existence of everything.
Yep.
Now, um, and I'll just go right back to it. It's just heck, it's just fun. It's just fun bringing all these concepts into a narrative, into a comic book narrative. It's
It's
absolutely
so much
exciting.
better for you to be sharing the screen because we're seeing what you want us to see. So thanks, George.
Any questions? I've been talking and talking and talking. I'm just so excited to talk about all this stuff.
Yeah. Any questions you guys have in the chat? And I do have questions for you. Um, you've answered some of them, but let me see. Um, would you like if you're asked to collaborate on a project outside of this? Are you open to collaborations?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's exciting. It's exciting to. I've collaborated with a lot of people over the years, whether it's lettering for their books, inking their books. I don't ask for credit
Mhm.
most of the time. Sometimes it just comes out that I actually worked on a particular book in the mainstream media and mainstream books or anything like that,
Okay.
or self-funded books or self-published books. But most of the time, I just don't take credit. I just don't want it because it takes the focus away from the author or the team that was, behind the eight ball. They had a deadline, they couldn't meet it, and they needed some help to get the book done. And I'd say, sure, no problem, I'll help you out. No, don't even think about it. I mean, there was one notable artist, self-publisher,
Hmm.
who actually lost a whole page. I mean, they accidentally deleted that page, or I think it was corrupted,
Oh,
a corrupted file. So I reconstructed it for him from the ground up. You would never know which page out of the entire book it was reconstructed.
really?
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Oh,
And do a
wow.
lot of script doctoring work where I actually talk to people and say, what is your concept? What's your idea? Okay. And then I start asking them questions. After like 3 or 4 sessions, they're going like, oh my God, I think I know where I'm going with this. I think I know what my story narrative is. I know how, where, and what I have to do. And it's just me asking them questions. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm not giving them story ideas. I'm not creating anything for them. I'm helping them create it for themselves. It's
Uh-huh.
just they just don't know. A lot of the young talent out today, they pick up a book and say, "Oh, this is how Hollywood says you're supposed to do it." No, no. Even Spielberg says no to that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell you right now, in a basic understanding, you gotta understand the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell, you got to understand the hero's journey. You got to understand that a good story is the hero's journey, and that hero's journey has been going on forever. The Iliad, the Odyssey, Shakespeare,
Yes.
all those great stories. They all have a very specific story structure, and if you understand that, you're very well. You're ahead of everybody. A lot of people.
Um, George Tink says I could see General Pedrowski and George collaborating. I assume you know General Pedrowski.
No, I don't know who that is.
He was
I'm
in the chat
excited to know
earlier,
more people.
or he or she was in the chat earlier. So that's thanks, Tink. Well, Katie says my son is waiting for the Bond Bunny. Now,
Well,
George,
there's a whole page of that Bond bunny in the book.
have you done a lot of book covers?
What's that?
Have you done a lot of book covers?
Um, no, that's the one thing that while it's exciting to do book covers. Actually, yes, I have, but not in the way that it's comic book. I've done scientific book covers.
Okay.
As an example, one author, a prominent author, and what's it called? He goes around for the taking measurements and samples. I forgot to talk to you. All right, sorry. He's taking measurements and samples and collecting them for papers to understand about the rise and fall of germs and stuff like that. And he had a very specific book. So I produced a book cover that was just pegs, little peg people
Hmm.
sitting on a Venn diagram where you have multiple circles overlapping each other. That kind of scientific covers
Okay.
where I take the concept of the professor that for his book, and I would make it into a cover.
Okay.
It, it's actually it's a very interesting mental challenge to you have to understand the basic nature of the book and what he's trying to say, other than say it's Spider-Man versus the Vulture. Okay, well, you draw Spider-Man and the Vulture in a very exciting dynamic cover. A
Katie
scientific
says
book
you are
cover
my
is
hero.
more of here's the nature of the project. This is what we're actually testing, and this is the results of the test. Can you come up with something interesting?
I don't want to interrupt you, George, but
No, go ahead.
MacGyver has a question. He says, who colors your books?
I did.
You did.
Yeah, I did. I did the drawings. I did the coloring and the lettering.
I gotta say, you have your whole skill set, all put together is very unique, George. It really is.
It's a long form of just learning different things that interest you. As an example, the lettering for this book and all my other books is that it's not intrusive into the artwork. If you from everything that you see in this, is that not one of the balloons
Mhm.
or bubbles actually interferes with the principal characters in the story. There's the actual bunny page. Here's another page. You see all the lettering. It's beside the characters,
Yeah.
but it's never over the characters.
Wow. I gotta say, I'm gonna go back to this material with a totally different perspective when I sit down to read it now.
Yeah, and here's the page with the sandwich.
No.
And let me find one page that's really exciting. Um, page 9, I think it is. Page 9. Where is it? Page 9. Oh, is it page 9, page 10. Give me a sec. I'm looking through the pages right now.
George, what is Gatsis? Is that Greek?
Yes, it is. It's a Greek name. Here we go.
Well, for anybody who's just joining us now, you guys definitely have to go back and look at earlier parts of our talk because um, George's George's comic books are amazing. They're innovative in ways that I have never seen before, and um, and George himself is amazing. He's
Gosh, thanks.
multifaceted. Go ahead, sorry, George.
No, shucks. Thanks. Well,
No, I mean
here
like
in this page, we talked about
yep.
a single particle. You're moving at faster than the speed of light. A single particle will be devastating to you, and this is what happens to this particular character. He hits
Can
a
you
particle.
George, can you explain for us, for people who might just be joining us, there's a couple of people just joined us. Can you explain between the layout of this page?
Okay, sure. Okay, so what's going on is that actually, let me go back to one page here. Here we go. The crew meets up with a bigger ship called the Ghost. Okay, and the crew of the Ghost is manned by robots for long missions. All right, not a mission that takes like a couple of days. We're talking missions that take years, sometimes hundreds of years. And the robots themselves are. Let's see, pull this up. Next page. The robots are cartoon in nature, but the gag about this is that for these robots to be successful in what they're doing, they have to be decentralized. There's no central command. There's no central input system where it would get either destroyed or injected with a virus and the entire ship is disabled. So every robot is autonomous and they have a firewall set up. So they're all their individual person, so to speak. So there's different levels for this robot crew to tackle a mission. One is a simple single man robot, so to speak, with a polymorph, which is what he's riding on. That polymorph will actually adjust and change shapes to meet his needs. And in this particular instance, he's actually came to one of the Stargates, one of the many Stargates that's infiltrating our galaxy, and he needs a solution, a very quick solution. So, he analyzes the situation and sends the polymorph into the robot like a virus, and the robot destroys. It blows up, and the robot blows up. The Stargate blows up, and the job's done. This particular page is in contrast to what our heroes have to do in 119 pages. That's the gag. The gag is that the robot crew can actually take care of the job a lot more efficient than our heroes can in 119 pages.
Wow.
And there's a metaphor actually happening in this particular page that has to do with crowdfunding. I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody.
It has to do with
But
crowdfunding.
there's a heavy crowdfunding metaphor on this page. And let me actually bring up a gag here. You're gonna like this gag.
Hmm.
This you've read this, but the people in the chat haven't read this. The audience hasn't read this. So what you have here, I'll do the setup. You're in an elevator, okay? Joe's talking with his wife, and she's actually berating him. And you have these two characters in the foreground actually talking to each other, looking at the argument that Joe is having with his wife. Okay, so the purple character and the orange character, left and right. He says he's been groveling ever since he got on the elevator. It looks like they are really good friends or married. Which, with his bad luck, my money is on married. Isn't it bad luck to have a family serving on the same ship? Nah, that's just a fairy tale told by corporate employee resources, so they don't have to pay out family insurance premiums. Hey, did you see that? The book vanished from his hand. So if you notice, Joe had a book in his hand and it disappeared on the next panel. Maybe he's a magician. He's really terrible at magic. How do you know? If I was married to an angry wife, I would disappear instead of the book. And there's the gag. Oh, we disappeared one more time. Hi, chat. How's it going? We'll wait for our fearless leader to come back in. So, anybody have any questions? We've been at this for, oh my gosh, 2.5 hours. We've been at this for 2.5 hours.
Can you hear me, George?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay. I just finished doing the gag for the chat. I think the chat heard me.
Yeah, they heard you. They heard you.
Ah, good.
Wow. Listen. So, yeah, you're right. We have been. I heard you saying that we've been at this for a little bit. It's for me, it's flown by, to be honest.
I feel the same way.
But you're willing to come back another day and talk some more, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Bring up a subject on Orville, the concept of physics, the concepts of science fiction. Everything and anything. I'm here. Yeah, I'll if anyone has any questions,
Yeah.
feel free.
Before we let him go, guys,
I'm easy to contact.
do we have any questions? Katie says, "No wonder why Joe's life is always irritated."
True.
My husband's gone for a light year. I'd be busy too.
Oh, let's see. How common is the image gimmicks in most comics? It's not very common. It's because a lot of the books that are produced today are created to have that splash and highly detailed artwork, which it looks fantastic. But if you look at some of that highly detailed work, and if you see something really interesting in that work, in that detail, something that's not part of the, in your face narrative, then you're actually got something really nice. When you look at the background, you see as the good guy and the bad guy are fighting each other, and then you see in the window there's Santa Claus looking out the window of an apartment building. That's those little details are really cool. Or if you have ET, sitting, being the cab driver.
Yeah, I thought all the stuff you've been teaching me tonight has been for me. It's been wow. It's been a breath of fresh air to see this creativity, George.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And if anyone wonders if they can or cannot do it themselves, all it takes is for you to start putting down your ideas. It doesn't matter. Just put your ideas down on post-it notes. Put them in a shoebox. Come back to it a few months later, and you'll see all those post-it notes, and you start puzzling together your narrative, and then and from there you can actually
That's really
start.
good advice, actually.
Yeah, and then after that, that narrative will start to take control. It'll start to take control of you. It's like you're doing some self hypnosis. Oh, and that's another thing. Oh my gosh, hypnosis, or the science of conveying information without actually presenting it, like in your face. You know, like red is action, blue is relax, green is you're not sure which way to go, and the science of direction. You know, if the character is moving from right to left, that is anxiety. If they're moving from left to right, that is calming. You know, there's just so much in the visuals that a lot of people really don't take advantage of. You have to do. I did storyboards. Yes, I've done storyboards for feature films and stuff like that. And the science of presenting the artwork, so the director would understand the direct which way that particular scene is going, and the director wants to create anxiety in a particular scene. Everything is moving from right to left all the time, all the time.
Hmm, that
And
makes
if you
sense. Yeah.
look at Kylo Ren, the Tie Fighter, you know, zeroing in on Rey, the movement's right to left. But
Hmm.
when Rey actually destroys the Tie Fighter, her movement's from left to right.
I didn't notice that. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
these visual cues and storyboarding, you know, it is also incorporated into the storytelling of this book.
Do you, George? Do you, before we let you go, do you wanna talk a bit again about? Do you want to put up that page
Sure,
of the special offer that you?
sure. You go to georgepetergatsis.com. You click on the big images that appear. It'll take you right to the page, and this is PayPal, so it'll take any kind of payment. You know, a PayPal payment, a credit card payment, and if you want to just get the digital, $9.99 for the digital. And if you're so happy reading the digital and you want a physical book, you can get the physical book. You can contact me and say, look, I bought your digital book. I'd like to get the physical book. I'll send you a discount to minus the digital cost. So you can get the book at a $10 cheaper rate than the $39 on the site. And if you want original art, I'm not for the Orville Nation. You know, get the $79 perk. I'll give you not one, but I'll give you 3 original pieces of art. You just name the character that you want, and
That's great.
I'll draw it for you.
That's pretty cool, actually.
These are the manageable perks, I call them. You know, the expensive perks are you can get trading cards as well, and you can also get a hardcover, which is the $500 level. But the hardcover is 13 inches by 19 inches. It's big. It's like
That looks
one
nice.
of the old-fashioned storybooks that you would sit back with your kid and open it up and say, "Look at all these pictures," and the kid be falling asleep by the second page because there was just too much there.
Wow. Um, George, I'm gonna I if you is there anything you want to add before we wrap things up? But I'm only letting you go if you promise to come back.
Absolutely, absolutely, I will come back. This is absolutely exciting. I'll come back to talk about something more. You know, whatever's on topic. You know, you have a group session here, talking with other like-minded individuals. I'll be glad to jump in and add to the conversation.
I was just thinking that I'd definitely love to have you on for some panel talk when when we start to do that more frequently. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
And maybe by then I'll have the spaceship ready, so to show off to everybody
Oh yeah.
in physical hand, in my hands, physically.
Tink LaCoyer. Tink says wow. I'm not sure what she's wowing about, but I'm sure she's wowing about a lot of things. um, hey guys, so just I want to say thanks to Tink, to Kathia, to Adega. Thanks for accepting the wrench, Adega. We're gonna have Adega on here pretty soon. And guys, by the way, Adega and Kathia both have content, so subscribe to their channels. And been really enjoying watching Kathia's stuff, and um, subscribe to Adega and Kathia, and we're gonna have Adega on really soon. Um, so thanks again to Alicia and Mac and everybody who was here earlier. So
Yeah, yes, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you to the audience.
is there anything you want to add before we go?
No, I'm very grateful for the invitation here. I thank you so much. The Orville Nation. I mean, really, I was like floored when I saw you exist. When this collective was
We have a great
came to my
community, don't
attention.
we?
I am very grateful that you started this, that you brought us all together. Just bigger and greater things.
Yeah, George. Thanks so much. I'm sorry we took so long to get this. We
No,
had the
no, no. All
holidays,
good things. All good things
but
come. Yeah,
but
don't be sorry. It's just,
it was worth the wait. I must say.
hey, I gotta tell you, I thought your previous interview with Corin was rock solid, awesome. I mean, oh my gosh, Parker
It
Lewis
was fun.
campers. Yeah, I gotta tell you, that was a childhood thing for me. When that series was on TV, it was the go-to series for me.
Parker Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was go to for a lot of people. Really, yeah, I didn't realize how many. I watched it. I wasn't like I wasn't as hooked as some of you guys were on it, but I remember it, and I loved it. It was great.
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible, absolutely incredible.
And you just reminded me. Thanks for reminding me, George, that on Saturday night, we are interviewing a cast member from Star Trek Voyager, and that is Manu Intirami, if I pronounced it correctly. And that is the person, the gentleman who played Icheb, and he's one of my favorite characters actually from Voyager. Um,
No way, that's incredible.
it was the teenager. Remember the teenager Borg?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So we're gonna have Icheb here on Saturday, and that's gonna be exciting. And we're just gonna be so that we're gonna have another. I mean, Corin's interview was awesome. He was amazing. He was very generous, and we're gonna have another great interview on Saturday. And I gotta say, you blew me out of the water today, George. So we gotta sit down in a few days and think about actually, you know what we could do, George?
What's that?
And I'll talk to you about it. But maybe we can have you and a couple other people in our community, like X in our comics, or people who are into your space as well. Have you guys on together?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I think that'd be a lot
Exciting,
of fun.
exciting, exciting to bring like-minded people. I mean, just like I said, Orville Nation. You created this. You created this environment that's gravitating. You're the gravitational force that's bringing all these planets encircling around you.
Well, I appreciate that. I think we're all revolving around the Seth MacFarlane solar sun.
Yes, yes, we are. Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing, to see after what is it, 20 plus years where he's brought us comedy. Now he's bringing us the level of science fiction and quality storytelling. It's just It's incredible.
Yeah, and let me just add one thing about Seth. Let me read this real quick. MacGyver says he can draw highly detailed technical drawings, but he sucks at art.
Dude, you know what? You have a future in books. You can do highly detailed drawings, technical drawings. You know how wonderful that would be as a background artist to a foreground character artist? Imagine, follow me on this, MacGyver,
That's a
for a
good
moment.
point.
You have a story and you have the characters interacting with each other in the foreground, not, punching each other and stuff like that. We're talking about good science fiction stuff, okay? But then your level of detail work in the background will just elevate that panel hugely. And just imagine it. Just imagine you have two characters that a character artist can do. The character artist can draw expressions on the characters. They can compose them in a way that it makes sense to convey the story. But if you have a person who can do highly detailed backgrounds, technical backgrounds in science fiction, that's golden. You got a gold. You got a golden team there.
Yeah, MacGyver, you got. That's a good point. That's a good point that George is making. Absolutely. So, by the way, guys, what I was going to say about Seth MacFarlane, I'm probably going to do a video on this or maybe a stream about it because we see a lot of people worrying about the like changes that might be coming with Seth signing with NBC Universal and stuff. I mean, we don't really know what's going on, but the last thing I think we got to do, and for any of us have to do is worry. I mean, Seth has got his. I'm sure he's got his bases covered, and the people worrying about, for example, the move to Hulu. I want to talk more about this another day because, but Seth is ultimately protecting his property with every move he's making. So I don't think we got to worry about anything. Do you have any
I,
thoughts on
I
that?
extrapolate the same thinking. He's a very clever man. He knows the business of Hollywood long before he became known to the normal people like us. So I don't see if Seth is gonna say not walk away, but just let the Orville become go into the hands of other people. I'm pretty sure there's going to be a contract or some sort of agreement that will force the other people, unlike the George Lucas agreement, where they have to do certain things in a
Well, I
certain
don't
way.
I don't think he will let it go to other
No, I don't
people's
think so
control.
either. I don't think
Yeah.
so either. But in a highly unlikely worst
Hmm.
case scenario, I don't think Seth is just going to let the thing just go like George Lucas did and hope that they actually follow his ideas.
Yeah. 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 And by the way, guys, get ready for season 9 of the Orville. That's what I mean. This is. I mean, think about the commitment that Seth has to the shows he's put out. We're gonna get that. I mean, he's gonna put that same commitment in his baby, and his baby is, it's kind of his lifelong dream to be a starship captain. He's not gonna let that go. So, well, anyway, George, thanks so much, and be back soon. Okay, my friend.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you everybody to the chat, and anyone would like to get in touch with me. I'm on Twitter. You already know my website. My website. You can get to the social media places. I I don't hide behind my avatar or my name. You can contact me. There's many ways of getting in touch with me. Just make sure that you say Orville Nation. Otherwise, I'm going to throw you into spam.
Okay, guys. Tink, Dega, MacGyver, Kafia. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us. You guys have a great night. Thanks, George. Have
Thank
a
you.
great night.